$35,000. That was the number the Cedar Lake Estates HOA slapped on my life like a sticker at a yard sale, and when I said I wasn't paying a dime because my cabin sits outside their boundary. The president smiled across a folding table and said, almost polite, "We can make this very difficult." And I thought, ma'am, you picked the wrong guy because I archive everything. My name is Caleb Morgan. I crunch numbers for a living and save receipts like they're family photos. And after 10 years of putting money away, I bought a cedar cabin at 1125 Fox Hollow Road on the quiet edge of Hickory County. No gates, no committees, just a lake that looks like it could lower your blood pressure by 5 points if you stare long enough. I did the homework like it mattered. Deed in my hands, county plat map, highlighted subdivision declaration, pulled boundary line stopping short of my trees. That was the whole point, living outside the HOA's reach. 2 weeks in a thick envelope hits my mailbox, glossy photo of my front steps, inside a violation notice for non-approved exterior paint. $500 due in 10 business days. Which is how you learned peace and quiet can come with paperwork, so I called the office and got Connie voice flat. Like elevator music. And I said, "Hey, friendly. Heads up, your letter's a mistake. My deed shows I'm not in Cedar Lake. Can you check the county record?" And she put me on hold. Came back with a line that sounded memorized. "Our records show you're within our management area. Please remit within 10 days to avoid additional penalties." And I asked where those records live and whether they were recorded with the county. Then got told to bring it up at the board meeting. You know how that goes. I don't love fighting, but I love order. So I scanned the deed, the title policy, the survey screenshots of the county GIS map, named files like a librarian, backed them up, and sent a certified packet. Because paper talks when people won't, then 2 weeks later, the fine jumped to $2,000 with lien. In 30 days, printed clean as a threat, signed by the president, Paige Kettering. And I stood in my driveway with that letter, while February cut through my jacket, and thought, this isn't confusion. This is confidence. The board met in a room that smelled like dry markers and coffee metal chairs, in rows, a long table where Paige sat in the middle with that tight smile. Trevor Cole, the vice president, on one side, shaped like a golf shirt, and Danny Alvarez, the treasurer, on the other, eyes down on a laptop, like looking up might be dangerous. And when they called my name, I went to the dented podium with my binder, tabs, page numbers, the whole nerd parade, and put my deed and survey on the overhead camera. Said, "Simple thing here. I'm outside your jurisdiction, and you fined me anyway." Paige barely glanced, clicked her laptop, and threw a slide on the wall. Their internal expansion map from 2019 with a red loop around my lot that looked like a bored teenager drew it. And when I asked where it was recorded with the county, Trevor leaned into the mic like he'd been waiting his whole life to do it, and said the board approved the resolution unanimously in a closed session, and I kept my voice steady, because shouting makes you look guilty. Said the law requires boundary changes to be recorded at the courthouse, and there's no amendment on file. If it isn't recorded, it isn't enforceable. And Paige tapped her pen, smiled a practiced smile, and said, "This is an appeals meeting. Mr. Morgan, not a legal seminar. We'll respond in writing," which is the exact sentence people use when they want you to stop asking the right question. Meeting ends. Chairs scrape, folks avoid eye contact. Like I've got a contagious condition. I'm almost out the door when Danny brushes past and drops a folded note in my hand without looking at me. And out under the parking lot light, I open it and read, "Check Trevor's emails from July 2019. No." They knew the boundary, and in that moment, The temperature dropped inside me. Because if they knew this wasn't a clerical oops, it was a game. Their written response said appeal, denied with zero reasoning. And then came the 7-envelope day. 7 new violations. All dated the same morning, grass height, 800 door color. 750 unpermitted parking area, 900 outdoor recreational equipment, without approval for my hammock. That you can't photograph unless you trespass. 20 yards into my trees. Total new damage, 8,500. I laid them across my kitchen table like evidence cards. Took time-stamped photos, updated the spreadsheet, called Connie, who put me on hold and came back with submit in writing like a lullaby. And that evening, my elderly neighbor, Mrs. Boone, brought a casserole, and Worry said she'd seen the HOA truck idling by my tree line, told me the Santiagos down the road got fined over 20 grand last year, playground set holiday lights, work truck, then sold way under market, and an LLC snapped it up fast, and I pulled the county records, and there it was. Sale 60,000 below buyer. Juniper Ridge Holdings, LLC, P.O. Box address. Resale months later at a clean profit, and yeah, that happened. Then came the law firm letter. $35,000 due in 30 days, or lien and foreclosure. And my hands shook, not from fear, but from that cold clarity. You get right before a jump, so I scanned it into the folder. Wrote a response to the firm, to the county recorder, and to Paige, attached the deed and survey. And my timeline said, any lien attempt on property you know is outside your jurisdiction is fraud. And I called my closing attorney, Gabe, who confirmed no amendment exists, and gave me the number for a litigator named Monica Hale, who sounds like a scalpel feels, and she asked if I wanted a quiet settlement or daylight. And I said daylight, and she said, good, we filed declaratory judgment to confirm your outside injunction to stop harassment, abuse of process on top. Keep every scrap screen. Record calls do not pay a dime. Then I left a message for Riley Shaw, a reporter who covers housing and corruption, because I like to have more than one flashlight. The twist came in a plain manila envelope, no return address inside my mailbox like a dare. Printed closed session minutes from August 2019, talking about testing enforcement authority in boundary-adjacent areas to increase compliance and revenue. A July 2019 email chain where Trevor writes Paige about establishing de facto control on Fox Hollow that would create distressed sales and acquisition opportunities, and a short note in block letters on HOA letterhead. This is all I can give without losing my job. Use it carefully. And I knew in my gut who sent it, and I wasn't going to say so. I photographed everything. Scanned it, backed it up in 3 places. Hand-delivered to Monica. Emailed to Riley. Then sat at my table and let the anger pass through like a storm. Because anger burns hot and short, but paper lasts. Riley authenticated and ran it on a Friday. Front page, my deed. The missing county amendment. The minutes and emails in print. The Santiagos on the record, a question about no bid payments to coal yard works, while Trevor sat on both sides of the table. The HOA denied with the usual. We comply with all laws. The internet did what it does. Residents posted their letters and fines. A dad got dinged for a basketball hoop, a nurse for a garden gnome. And then Danny went public with an open resignation letter that said enforcement was weaponized boundary. Adjacent homes were targeted coal. Yardworks was paid above market with no bids. She signed her name, and the board's law firm tried to scare me with a defamation demand that Monica laughed at. "That's a slap threat we'll counter," she said, and I logged the white pickup idling near my tree line and the second trespass photo of my hammock, not because I needed fresh rage, but because I wanted the record to show how far they'd walk to prove a point. Courtroom 3C at 9 a.m. I wore my one decent suit. Monica met me on the steps with 2 file boxes and a calm face that felt like a life jacket inside the gallery. Mrs. Boone folded her hands. Luis and Mariela. Santiago sat steady. Riley's laptop glowed, a TV camera blinked red. Paige and Trevor took their seats with an attorney whose jacket could have paid a semester of someone's college, and when Judge Harper looked over the stacks and said, "Let's not waste time," I felt something unclench. Monica laid it out clean. My lot is outside. No recorded amendment exists. The HOA fined me anyway and threatened a lien here. Here are minutes and emails talking about squeezing boundary owners into distressed sales. The HOA's attorney said the board passed an internal resolution in 2019 and used phrases like interpretive authority and internal governance. The judge held up her hand and asked if there was a recorded amendment with the county. The answer was no, and she said, not unkindly, "Belief doesn't control land. Recording does." Monica called Danny, who testified they collected just under $100,000 across 8 properties in 18 months, 3, selling below market to LLCs shortly after, and that Cole Yard Works was paid above market without bidding, while Trevor sat on both sides. Then Luis told the judge how the letters and fines piled up, how Paige said resisting would make life more complicated than it needed to be, and Paige took the stand and tried to smile it away until Monica asked the only question that mattered. "Did you record your boundary expansion with the county like the statute requires?" And she said no, and the room got quiet. In that way, you can feel in your ribs. Judge Harper read the emails and minutes set the papers down and ruled like she was cutting a knot. "My cabin is outside Cedar Lake's jurisdiction. Every penalty is void. Cedar Lake and the named officers are enjoined from further enforcement against me and the financial materials about Cole. Yard works are referred to the district attorney for review." The gavel came down. Paige didn't look our way. Trevor gathered papers that didn't matter anymore, and I stepped out into daylight. That felt earned. I'm stopping the story right there at the sound of the gavel and the DA referral sitting on the record, because that's the moment the power shifted. And maybe that's where you come in. Tell me where the line sits between community and control. Is guardrails or licenses to bully? If a board tacks an extra 0 onto your life and calls it compliance, do you stay quiet or go public? Scorch the earth and let the sun do its work. What did I do right? What would you have done with that manila envelope? And if you've lived any version of this, share it in the comments, so the next person knows exactly where to start.